like I said, you know, the usability factor of this engine is what is the best USP of this bike. Although yes, we did talk about the shortcomings of the suspension and the seat.
But there's
stuff
no
like that.
shortcomings. The problem is we're comparing it with something like
Exactly.
the
We are
Xpulse.
riders that we've been
Yes.
riding that for all these races. So obviously that's going to be a... But while coming back, because in the evening there's a lot of traffic, that is where the problem started arising, where I started feeling this slight pain coming on the back and stuff.
So what's up, Gautam?
Hey buddy, what's up?
So we are in middle of nowhere.
Yep, pretty much middle of nowhere.
Yeah, an amazing unexplored place by most of the bikers, and I think we should keep it that way. So we are talking about the Jawa 42. It's a 2-year-old bike, 25,000 kilometers ridden. You've been using it for how many? 4-5 months?
Yeah, the entire monsoon is what I've been using it for. So I think about 3.5 months is what I've been using it. So basically it's my mama's bike. He barely uses the bike, which is why the less kilometers for the years that it's been. But yeah, so pretty much he keeps giving it to me time and again. Ki chala le karke. So that's the reason why today the bike is here. And yeah, so
It's a pretty decent bike.
Yeah, you're not your regular modern classic. I would say a modern classic.
Yeah.
In the sense, for the age-old design that the Royal Enfield gives you, this is something a little more toned up in that sense, you know.
Yes. And I mean, even I have ridden the bike. I'm going to give my views after taking your views regarding this. But from an impulse owner, obviously, with reference to the suspension, there is a massive difference.
Of course.
But I mean, I feel the suspension is a little better than the classic 350. My personal opinion.
The classic 350 it's very soft, I would feel. This is slightly more on the stiffer side, so it gives you a little more plushness on the road. And obviously, you can't compare it to the ADVs and the Impulse that we ride.
Obviously.
So there's no comparison whatsoever when you're trying to talk about it. But to start off with, this bike is meant for the highways. It's not meant for your everyday pothole riding and everyday city riding. Obviously, it's a small bike. It's a small wheelbase bike, so definitely you can, you know, maneuver it around in the traffic for sure. But potholes and all those things become a little cumbersome, especially for your lower back and for us half oldies.
But actually, you know what I've noticed? Just gel the seat up. I particularly didn't like the handlebar, but
yeah, so the handlebar is slightly more on the aggressive side. So, and especially because you have a center set foot peg, and then you have these aggressive handlebars.
it's not that aggressive.
It's where your riding triangle kind of goes for a toss.
But again, we are ADV, so our opinion is kind of inclined towards that complete upright position.
So that's why I mentioned, right? See, if you notice, come this side and see. This is where my leg is.
1 second, I'll just put your helmet so that you're a little free. So we're used to riding this angle, so yeah.
So if you notice, this is where my foot peg is, and this is how I'm sitting.
Yeah.
So although this is a sort of not a forward set, but not a very rear set either, it's kind of like in the middle.
Almost in the middle. It's
Almost
not 90.
in the middle. Yes, it's
not the Xpulse Impulse
But what gives way is this handlebar position. So this riding triangle is where this starts taking a toll on your back.
Slight toll.
This, had it been like this,
Yes.
and you're good to go.
But this is a very simple conversion. I mean,
just an upright handlebar.
Just an upright
I think an upright
handlebar.
handlebar with a mid bar should be good to go. What we have on our Impulses, in fact, that would be good to go. So somewhere here, and then you start having a little more relaxed position. Your back suddenly becomes straight then compared to the bent position that you had earlier with the stock one.
Yeah, I mean, I would screw the Impulse. I would say the RD350 handlebar would be perfect.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, one thing I noticed is the bloody engine, and I'm saying it's really good. 6-speed gearbox, and anything beyond 55-60, and you can be on 6th gear all day long. You know, there were times when I was actually feeling, am I on the 6th gear, because I could get enough punch post 60 as well.
That's the beauty of this engine. So even on the 6th gear, even if you're say at 60, you don't need to say go down to the 4th gear or even the 5th gear for that matter. On 6th, and you just pull and it'll give you that power.
Yeah,
That's the good usability factor about this engine. So when it comes to even say the yezdi Adventure, I think it's a really good buy because of the engine and because of the capability that it can give you.
Yes, I mean, it doesn't feel like an overdrive. It feels like, okay, you're still on a 4th or a 5th where there's enough punch to go ahead.
Like I said, you know, the usability factor of this engine is what is the best USP of this bike. Although yes, we did talk about the shortcomings of the suspension and the seat.
But there's no shortcomings. The problem is we're comparing it with something like the Xpulse.
We are riders that we've been riding that for all these ages. So obviously that's going to be a...
Like, you know what? I didn't find any jhatka on my lower back as such. Obviously, I would prefer something like that. But I didn't find any jhatka on my back.
But yeah, since this is more of a modern classic kind of a look, you have less travel up on the rear, and you can feel that. Although the front is pretty plush, the rear is where it gives way. That's because it's a little stiff there. Ride it on a daily basis, because see, I was using it during the monsoon. I was riding it to work daily. So once I used to reach work, there was no issues. But while coming back, because in the evening there's a lot of traffic, that is where the problem started arising, where I started feeling the slight pain coming on the back and stuff like that.
Another
but
thing,
otherwise, it's a doer. I would say it's a doer, much better than your Royal Enfields in today's time. Why? Because number one, Royal Enfields, there are just too many on the road, dude. So this is at least a little unique. You don't get to see Jawas in comparison to the Royal Enfields. There are less Jawas, and I'm happy about that, because at least there's something different on the road, something nice to look at.
Yeah, and this is a good looking bike.
And this is the 42 Stealth Black that you're seeing in front of you. So everything is black in this. But obviously you do get the Jawa and the Jawa Classic and the Jawa 42 with the chrome engine guards and stuff like that. So if you want to go for that old school feel, then definitely you should go for those. But if you want something a much more neo-classic, so to speak, so then this is the way to go, I feel. This
is the second engine. In the sense, this is the upgraded engine from the earlier 42s.
Yes.
So they had some patented X technology. I remember reading about it a year and a half ago.
As far as I remember, the Jawa engine is essentially the Mahindra Mojo engine.
It is.
Which has only been redesigned to make it look like the Jawa engine.
Exactly.
So your curved casings and stuff like that. Otherwise, the technology has been there for the past 10 years.
So Mahindra has a stake in Jawa as well as yezdi, and they're basically using the Mojo engine, which is highly capable. The Mojo being a capable bike that looked as ugly as your ex-girlfriend, no one purchased it. Yeah, that's sentence is subject to people, but yeah, I get that. Another thing I liked is the exhaust, man.
So
the exhaust is not loud enough.
As far as I remember, there are the stock bike gives you 3 settings for the exhaust as well.
Is it? Can you remove the muffler?
I've heard. I think there is some kind of setting that you need to put a nut there and probably just adjust. I don't know the specifications of that. Okay. But I've heard is what the stock exhaust also gives you kind of 3 settings of different sounds.
Why don't you just start the bike?
Sure.
So to give you a comparison, like this has some sort of feel in it, you know. Now, one thing, just to give you an example, this is a stock Xpulse Pro, and if you start this, you just won't get the same feel. Why don't you start this bike? I'm obviously going to make few changes on this later, but just to give you a comparison here. So the exhaust is good, and another thing of the exhaust is when I was riding, it's loud enough when you're slow, but when you're going fast, you can't really hear it. I mean, it's not like, oh my god, this bike is loud. So that's a good thing. Another thing I noticed is, unlike the KTM, the fan just doesn't start immediately. It doesn't heat up that much.
It's also not as loud, noisy as the KTM's either.
Yeah,
It is a little noisy because we are people who are coming from air-cooled bikes. But yeah, for a liquid-cooled fan, radiator-operated motorcycle, it's pretty silent.
Yeah, I'm assuming the compression ratio is not as aggressive as the KTM, right?
Of course not. It's a more relaxed position to ride in, right? So even the engine is set in that setup in which it's a more relaxed kind of a ride. You don't have aggressive ratios happening, so to speak.
And then we come to the headlight, which again is a Jawa. I mean, the details that they have done, you know, these lines that used to come in the old Enfields and the Jawas and the Yezdis. I like that. And
And
again,
it's a pretty decent unit as well. So to really tell you, it's a pretty good, decent
unit.
unit as well.
I think there's enough space for them to go. Has this bike fallen ever?
Nope.
Okay,
Luckily.
so we don't know about the
We don't
crash
take
guard.
this bike off-road, do we?
Yes. The brakes are decent. The brakes are
brakes
good.
are good. Brakes are good.
I mean, I don't know. I would say these brakes are slightly better than my Xpulses, but it's dual channel ABS, so obviously there is an advantage over there. What about the fuel efficiency?
To be very, very honest, I have never calculated because, like I said, it's my mama's bike.
No, I get that, but
it's not something that I am looking at. But what I see from the last 3-4 months that I've been using, I think I'm getting a healthy 350 to 380 kilometer range on a full tank. So that should I think count about to 30ish average, which is not bad actually.
not bad. So you don't fill the tank as often as you need to. So that's a good thing.
I don't use this bike so often.
So
That's the
often,
reason.
yes. I also like the way,
offset speedo.
yes. I mean, the details that Jawa has put in is just amazing. It's again the classic white speedometer.
And it's reverse, so that's what
Reverse,
makes it
yes.
even beautiful. So when you switch it on, the
I know.
the movement is what makes it unusual and different.
Yes, and we've got a pretty big fuel gauge, so you know exactly where.
Yeah, and the fuel gauge is pretty accurate as well, so no issues with that whatsoever.
I can't say the same about the Xpulse. The fuel gauge isn't accurate, but this is accurate. It gives you whatever you need. Does it give you like average per kilometer as well?
No. So it only gives you it gives you the odometer.
Yeah.
It gives you trip A and trip B. That's it.
Well, that's what you need, man.
Basic stuff. Very basic stuff.
Okay, so that's what you need. And no gadgets over here, no gadgets over here. It's just simple. What's this trip thing? Acha, trip
Oh,
one,
that's
trip
for
two.
the trip meter.
Okay. So that's good. I mean, the rear view mirrors are useless for a fact.
They're an accessory as far as I remember, because the stock ones I think come with
yes,
the
yes. This is an
stock-
accessory.
Yeah, this is an accessory. It's pointless. It's really pointless. There's no vision whatsoever. You're
Yeah.
better off without them.
I would definitely change the MRF tires. I don't know why people go with this MRF tire. It is useless. Change the tires, the grip level is going to increase.